Hello, class of 2017. Wow, congratulations. You did it. We are so proud of you. My name is No-Jin Kwak, Chair of the Department of Communication Studies. On behalf of our faculty, staff, a whole host of banks and lending agencies, and the owners of Rick's, Skips, and South U Pizza, I welcome you all to our graduation ceremony. Before we get started, I have a couple of important reminders. Please silence your mobile devices, and please do not stand in the aisles or along the walls. This is a violation of safety codes. Parents, grandparents, guardians, friends, and family members of our graduates, you have done so much to make this day possible. Let's give them a well-deserved round of applause. One of the things that I appreciated most when my own child graduated with a Michigan degree a couple years ago was that he had become a young adult, 4 years more mature, 4 years more responsible, and 4 years more confident. In fact, this is the story of all our graduates. Some of you may soon start paying back the Parent Plus loan, as I do now at the interest rate of 7.21%. But trust me, the future leaders and the best are among us right here. And you made the smartest investment. We thank you for entrusting us and giving us an opportunity to teach these students. I want to take a moment to recognize our wonderful staff. Graduating seniors, you all know Cheryl Erdman. Our undergraduate program coordinator, the listener, the answerer, the savior. Cheryl has been such an important part of your college journey, and I cannot emphasize enough how much Cheryl cared about your success. Dustin Hahn in the department is another person behind the curtain who, as a student service assistant, spent countless number of hours to help students stay on track in the communication studies major. Thank you both, and please join me in giving Cheryl and Dustin a big hand. Along with Cheryl and Dustin, Melissa Barnfine, our events and communication specialist, worked hard to make today's event what it is. The rest of the team in the department office, Linda Croyder, Amy Eaton, and Adrian Jenny, all of these people keep the department running in ways you may not see, not just for today, but every day. Thank you all. Class of 2017, can you believe that this day has finally and indeed arrived? In your time on campus, you have learned a great deal about communication media, culture, and technology. In the classes you took, you analyzed media content and effects, discussed key issues concerning gender, race, and identity in the media, and studied global media, digital technologies, and media industries. And you wrote papers on how to mediate the communication intertwined with politics, controversies, human psychology and physiology, and citizen activism. You did a project on social implications of mobile phones and social media, the world of fake news, and campaigning with Twitter. You have developed essential skills in problem solving, logical thinking, and coherent writing, which will serve you well in the vocation, any vocation you decide to choose. A few months ago, I sat down with the student leadership of the Michigan Association of Communication Studies, MACS. We brainstormed together to come up with a list of core values that U of M Communication Studies stands for. What came out of the exercise is quite telling. Students told me that in comm studies, among others, we look for answers, formulate opinions, challenge media, stay informed, confront stereotypes, respect others, take initiatives, and create an influence. All faculty in comm studies truly believe that all of you are on great trajectory. We'll miss you, but we are absolutely excited that you will be an engaging citizen, critical consumer of media, and highly successful Wolverine. I'm hopeful that what you learned from communication studies faculty will have a positive impact on what you will be accomplishing in the near future and in many, many promising future years. Having said that, would you mind joining me thanking your professors? You have been part of historic milestones at Michigan. There are so many. Involved in the bicentennial celebration, which happens only once every 200 years, check. Being a member of the largest ever graduating cohort of the department, check. Having a snow day. First time since 1978, check. Learning from a professor whose brother won an Oscar at this year's Academy Award ceremony for the movie La La Land, check. Standing together against hate speeches and racist flyers, check. Beating the other football team on the Thanksgiving weekend, we'll check that box later this fall. Once you leave Michigan, you'll be on your way to creating your own milestone for yourself, society, and the world. Hopefully, you'll take with you what you learned at Michigan and in comm studies as you embark your next chapters. All of us at comm studies will cheer for you. Go Blue. The Michigan Association of Communication Studies, MACS, is a student group that organizes enriching academic and professional events on behalf of our students. At this time, I ask all of senior MACS officers to stand and be recognized. Thank you.
I heard a phone. Hi, I'm Chris Harrison, Associate Chair for Undergrad Studies. Graduates, every time a door opens, it's power assisted. Every achievement results from two things, your own hard work and the green light of somebody with the power to open that door. But you need to know that you do the same for us. Those course evaluations, we actually read them. And it's your anonymous feedback that lets us honor our graduate student instructors, or GSIs, for outstanding teaching. So the McDonald Outstanding Graduate Instructor Scholarship is in honor of Glenn McDonald, career journalist. Originally established in 1960, the intent of the scholarship was expanded in 2004 to recognize graduate students for teaching excellence. Of this year's McDonald Award recipient, students wrote things like this: fantastic, so helpful, and made section fun and interesting, very willing to help students outside of class, very smart, made me think of ways I hadn't thought before. By far one of the best GSIs I've had, doesn't have an egotistical personality, truly cares about educating students. And then my favorite one, a little harsh with grading at first. Since this is a 101 class, I didn't expect expectations to be so high and demanding, but I think she improved as the semester continued. Thank you so much, graduates, for supporting our GSIs. The 2017 McDonald Outstanding Graduate Student Instructor Award goes to Yana Wilbright.
Thank you. Well, thank you, Chris and Nojin and everybody else who was on the committee deciding on this award. It's a really special honor for me to be recognized for teaching because I was the first person in my family to go to college. and to now, as a PhD student, have the chance to teach some of the smartest and brightest and most engaged students that are studying in the US right now is very exciting. It's a true honor, and I want to thank all of you students for giving me and the other GSIs and the professors the chance to engage with you in these really important discussions. I've been continuously impressed with your intellectual curiosity, your ability to think critically, and especially your willingness to engage with these really complex and very important, but sometimes difficult conversations. And I'm really confident that you will keep doing that, and you will go on to do fantastic things. So I'm very excited for you, and I congratulate all of you. I would also like to thank the faculty that I've taught for. I taught for Josh Pasek for 121, with Jimmy Draper for 122, and then Shazia Iftikhar for 101. So I'm glad I improved in that class at the very least. That's good to hear. I like to thank our staff for sure, especially Cheryl Ertman for making sure all the undergrads get into the right section and all of that. Everybody finds their rooms. Amy Eaton for organizing all the grad students and helping the GSIs do what we do. I like to thank all of the other GSIs. A few of them are here. If you could stand up so we can give you a round of applause. There's some GSIs, former and current. Thank you. Thank you. So thank you all so much. Congratulations, graduates. Go Blue. You're amazing.
And now it is my pleasure to introduce the cohort that will be receiving the distinction of honors this year. For students with strong academic records and a desire to pursue individual scholarly research, the Honors Program in Communication Studies offers a very special opportunity. Students who are admitted into the Honors Program design and conduct an individual research project during their senior year, the entire year, and they write a senior thesis on the results of their research. They work with myself, the Honors Director, and an individual faculty advisor throughout the year. Upon successful completion of the thesis, students graduate with either honors, high honors, or highest honors in communication studies, depending on their grade point average and depending on the evaluation of their thesis. So with that said, I would like to start calling the students up in alphabetical order who will be receiving honors this year. Certificates. Okay, first up we have Sarah Benson. Her thesis is titled Google Misconduct, Implications of Digital Media for Juror Impartiality, and her advisor was Faith Spar. Next up, we have Emily Harmon, who I'm going to recognize. She couldn't be here today. Emily's thesis was titled Social Media Screening and Job Hiring, Comparing Applicant Concerns About Facebook and LinkedIn. Her advisor was Muzammil Hussain. Lindsay Hurwitz, whose thesis was titled Can't Stop Watching the Emotional Implications of Binge Watching, faculty advisor Sonia Dalsin, graduating with honors. Can't forget the important things. Next up, we have Emily Levy. Her thesis is titled From Ew to O, a study of graphic images on Twitter and desensitization. Her advisor was Jan Vandenbulk, and she's graduating with honors. Next, we have Danielle Litwack. Her thesis was titled R.I.P. SOPA, a critical analysis of the discourse surrounding the 2011 failed legislation. Her advisor was Jimmy Draper, and she will be graduating with highest honors. Next is Joanna McKelvey. Her thesis is titled Sex Q&A, Sexual Health Content in Print and Online Advice Platforms in 2006 and 2016. Her advisor was Catherine Sender, and she will be graduating with highest honors. Eli Scheinholz. wrote the thesis titled BuzzFed, How Digital News Quality Affects Candidate Knowledge and Preferences. His faculty advisor was Josh Pasick, and he will be graduating with highest honors. Gabrielle Wesseldijk, her thesis was titled Do It for the Gram, Upward Social Comparison, Self-Discrepancy, and Body Shame Among College-Aged Instagram Users. Faculty advisor Kristen Harrison, and she'll be graduating with highest honors. And Jenna Wilimowski, her thesis was titled Imagine That, Implications of Posting to the Imagined Audience on Facebook for User Behavior and Attitude. Faculty advisor Jan Vandenbulk, and Jenna will be graduating with high honors. Okay, we are almost done. One last piece of business is the Mark Foote Distinguished Thesis Award. Established in 2003 by the family of Mark Foote, a devoted University of Michigan alumnus and longtime leader in journalism who served over 40 years as a national and international news correspondent for the Booth Newspaper Syndicate in Grand Rapids, Michigan, and Washington, D.C. This award is given to the Communication Studies undergraduate student for the most outstanding senior thesis in terms of scientific rigor and theoretical contribution. At this time, I would like to congratulate Daniel Litwack for winning the Mark Foote Award. About a round of applause for our honor students.
Congratulations. Now, as a part of our ceremony, we have two students who will speak on behalf of the class of 2017. Our speakers today are Rebecca Rothbart, the president of Max, and Danielle Litwack, the executive vice president of Max.
Good afternoon, distinguished faculty, families, and fellow graduates. I'm humbled to be standing here before you as the president of the Michigan Association of Communication Studies and wholly honored to be representing the graduating communications class of 2017. To be completely honest, even after 4 seasons, I still don't really understand football. The game has always been much too complicated for me to ever fully get what's going on. However, the spirit and pride that erupts through the big house are feelings that I very much understand and love. While I may not know the intricacies and strategies of the game, I can imagine that scoring a game-winning touchdown feels a lot like how I feel about graduation. We all started at the same 50-yard line, freshman year. At this default threshold, we were full of aspirations, but also uncertainty about which direction we would be heading. Did practice, high school, prepare us enough for the game that we were about to dive into head first? Before we knew it, the ball was in play. It took a little bit of time to become comfortable with our surroundings. Our team, our friends, family, and educators always had our backs, supporting us in any way that they could. Yet obstacles would challenge us along the way, whether it was our coursework, our social lives, our health, or any other additional commitments. It was up to us to figure out how to navigate through them. Making it past these opposing players is what not only made us stronger, but it built our confidence to go further. Next, it was time to decide our major. All of us here followed our passion for media and pursued a curriculum of emerging and evolving topics, which ultimately taught us the very important skill of critical thinking. It was always reassuring to know that we had the best leader, Coach Cheryl, by our side to guide us through. The clock was also a consideration. It was always in the back of our mind because before we knew it, our time here would be up. Consciously budgeting our time is something that Michigan students pride ourselves on, that perfect balance between work and play. We used our time strategically, whether we were studying and writing essays or seeking out opportunities, such as internships and leadership positions. These are what set us up for future plays and got us one step closer to the end zone. So we ran. We were resilient through the cold winters, the hundreds of thesis statements, the treks to North Quad, and the long line at Rick's. And then we, the class of 2017, finally made it to the end zone. The workforce, just like the stadium, is full of alumni who have and will continue to cheer us on because they want to see Wolverines succeed. This day was always in sight, even though it seemed so far away for so long. Starting lives on new turf with new teams and new opponents seems daunting. And I cannot stand here and tell you that everything will work out or advise you about how to find success because I'm in the same exact shoes as all of you. Life doesn't come with quite the same list of guaranteed plays that college did, but it does come with thresholds, 50-yard lines, and opportunities like this one, where it is up to us to fight for which direction we want to go. I will say this, we are all going somewhere, and I'm very grateful to tell you all in person that I wish you the best of luck in your next game. And remember, wherever you go, go blue. And now I'm going to pass it off to my wonderful Executive Vice President, Danielle Litwack.
To our faculty, family, friends, and fellow graduates, welcome, and thank you so much for joining us. With the new title of Graduate of the University of Michigan comes the obvious notion that we have all encountered a substantial amount of success throughout our lives. Whether it's taken the shape of an A on a difficult exam, your dream internship on your resume, or a graduate school acceptance letter, I'm sure we can all fondly recall moments of pride. But while I think back to these past 4 years, not only am I greeted with a sense of achievement, I am also left with distinct memories of failures. And as strange as it may sound, especially as someone who holds myself to sometimes unachievably high standards, I actually don't mind this recollection of the times I didn't accomplish, the times hard work didn't pay off, and the times I faced rejection. I welcome these objectively negative thoughts, not because I enjoy self-pity or loathing, but because these failures have produced some of my best decisions and lessons. Though I admittedly didn't enjoy being deferred from Michigan, it was following this heartbreak when I realized the people who I can eternally depend on for support and comfort. It gave me the opportunity to prove myself capable. And when that acceptance finally did come, it did so with an entirely new significance. My subsequent failures, though sometimes arriving with what feels like an all-consuming sense of inadequacy, have also given me new opportunities to develop and learn. There will always be positions unattained, breakups, friends who turn out to not be friends at all, elections where your candidate of choice didn't win, and there will always be disappointment. But it's the decisions you make following that feeling of contempt that shape the way you'll look back at them. Just a few months ago, the Women's March, which attracted 4 million participants internationally, was not a movement to celebrate triumph. Rather, it was a monumental response to a perceivably colossal failure. Now listen, I don't personally consider myself as someone qualified of delivering a renowned life lesson. I'm 21, a soon-to-be recent college graduate, and very much still trying to figure out my place in the world. And my family can attest. Acknowledging the benefits of failure is something I am still trying to learn and have far from mastered. But plenty of distinguished people like Winston Churchill, Thomas Edison, and Ellen DeGeneres, to name a few, have also defended the importance of failures. So it has to hold some truth, right? Class of 2017, I encourage you and myself to continue recognizing and seizing opportunities to grow and to be a better person. Most importantly, trust that who you are is who you're supposed to be, no matter who tries to convince you otherwise. Admit and welcome defeat, while also taking time to feel proud of your accomplishments today and every day. Congratulations on both your successes and failures these past 4 years. Thank you.
Now, this is my honor to introduce today's speaker, Margaret Lowe, a Michigan alum, class of 1980. He worked her way up from overnight production assistant on NPR's Morning Edition to nearly 4 decades later, accomplished journalist and media executive. She has that rare combination of editorial and business expertise. Margaret is currently president of Atlantic Live, the Atlantic's event division, which produces more than 100 events a year across the country and around the world. She joined the Atlantic in the fall of 2014 and expanded the team's portfolio to include major summits on weighty editorial topics, including race, justice, aging, the future of work, and education. Before joining the Atlantic, Margaret was a senior vice president for news at NPR, where she had a storied career rising through the ranks and ultimately take on the top news job, overseeing the work of some 400 journalists worldwide. NPR won many, many prestigious journalism awards under her leadership. Margaret was served as NPR's vice president for programming. She developed the live event strategy for the hit show, Wait, Wait, Don't Tell Me, and was the recipient of 2008 Peabody Award. She was also responsible for NPR's program acquisition deals, including Fresh Air and Car Talk, two of public radio's top-rated programs. Please join me in welcoming Margaret Lowe here today.
Professor Kwok, thank you so much. And hello, faculty, staff, parents, family, friends, loved ones, and graduating seniors. Congratulations to you, class of 2017. You look incredible. You are positively beaming there in your caps and gowns. I first arrived on this campus 40 years ago. My parents put me on an airplane at Boston Logan Airport with my big blue steamer trunk, kissed me goodbye, and sent me off, and I never looked back. I loved my 4 years here. I was reminded of that this morning as I walked across the diag and breathed in the April air. Ann Arbor in springtime is like the platonic ideal of what college is supposed to be. I'm so honored to be here today and to help send you off into the world. I'm going to begin with a confession, and you're actually going to notice some beautifully recurring themes from what you've already heard. First of all, I've never actually worn a cap and gown before. I really did graduate from the University of Michigan. Professor Kwok didn't make that up, but I didn't attend my own graduation ceremony, and I can't remember why. I would have skipped out on such a singular moment. Maybe I was in too much of a hurry to get on with my life, or maybe my friends and I were too busy planning the after party. And I guess somehow then I didn't realize how much these moments matter. The beautiful transitions from one chapter to the next. And I'm so glad that, unlike me, you all decided to show up, because it would have been incredibly lonely up here without you. And not only am I happy to be wearing a cap and gown for the first time, this graduation attire also meant that I didn't have to think about what to wear. That's actually huge. I have a few more confessions that I hope will give you some things to consider as you make your way in the world. Confession 2. While I care deeply about all of you graduating seniors, and I do, I really, really do, this day, this moment is also for your moms and dads and grandparents or whoever raised you and sent you here. They think this is actually a rite of passage for them too. I know I'm the mother of 2 sons. My boys are 23 and 28, both grown up-ish. And so I know what the parents in the audience are likely feeling. They fed you, and they bathed you, and they read to you, and they helped you with your homework. They lectured you, and they worried about you, and they always will. But now you've gone and you've grown up on them, except that is when you come home and strangely revert to that childhood behavior that everybody really had hoped you'd outgrow. Parents, we are celebrating you today, too. Confession 3. This is hard to say. I never went to Michigan football games. When I meet my fellow Michigan grads, without fail, as you can imagine, the very first thing they say is, "Go Blue." and I say in my most enthusiastic voice, yes, yes, go blue. I even get invited to parties to watch Michigan games because people know I'm an alum, and I feel a little bit like a fraud because instead of going to the games for the 4 years I was here, I scalped the tickets that came with my tuition. I made a lot of money. It was probably the most entrepreneurial thing I've ever done, though not necessarily the smartest, because my ignorance of sports got the best of me very early in my career, which brings me to confession 4. I was living in Washington and working as an overnight production assistant, which meant that my day started at 1 a.m. on NPR's Morning Edition, and the schedule was brutal. Even more brutal was that as a lowly member of the show's staff, I had to write the headlines and game scores that led the daily sports segment. We'd rip the scores off the wires. These were like old teletype machines that clacked and spit out endless rolls of paper copy. And by the middle of the night, even the longest running West Coast baseball games were over, and I got to pick the games I wanted to highlight. As you can imagine, my choices were arbitrary at best, but I prided myself on my ability to find new words that meant the same thing as beat, as in the Angels beat the Mariners 2-1. So, on April 14th, 1982, I wrote something like this. The Blue Jays edged the Tigers 5-4. The Royals slipped past the Orioles 4-3. The Mets trounced the Phillies 8-1. And the Yankees tied the Rangers 4-4. Then I would hear Bob Edwards, longtime host of Morning Edition, reading my words on the air. Millions of people woke up to Bob's deep, soothing voice every morning, and I loved hearing him read what I'd written for all of America to hear, especially because Bob was crazy about baseball. The Blue Jays edged the Tigers 5-4. The Royals slipped past the Orioles 4-3. The Mets trounced the Phillies 8-1. And the Yankees tied the Rangers 4-4. Tied? He repeated the word with utter disbelief in his voice. Tied? Then, stunned silence. That moment is seared in my memory. I didn't know that baseball games never end in a tie. There was a rain delay, and the game was called for the evening. The wires had reported the latest score, and I ran with it. Bob knew he was reading bad copy, and it was my fault. I've made hundreds of mistakes since then, large and small, but that one was crushing. I was so embarrassed. And the only thing I could do was apologize, say that I'd screwed up, and acknowledge that there were just a lot of things I didn't know. There is still so much I don't know. What I do know is that no one gets it right all the time. You're gonna screw up, maybe even a lot. It's okay, humans make mistakes. The best thing you can do is own up to it, preferably with a little grace and contrition. Try to learn from it, and then move on. And that mistake at 20-something probably taught me more than the many things I was lucky enough to get right. Sports is far from my only weakness, which brings me to confession 5. I'm lousy at math. In fact, years after I left Ann Arbor, I had a recurring dream about a college math class that I was failing. I'd go to class, but it was a total blur, and I was unable to absorb any of the material. And my inadequate math skills are a little hard for me to talk about because I'm the daughter of a theoretical physicist. I inherited his goofy laugh, but not his scientific mind. But he was kind about it, and when he used to help me with my math homework in high school, he would always say, "Margaret, darling, figuring out the answer is never hard once you have the right equation." Somehow those words always felt as much like a life lesson as a math lesson. Figuring out the answer is never hard once you have the right equation. So as you try to figure out the answer to the question everyone, or at least all the adults in your life, keep asking, what are you gonna do when you graduate? Keep this in mind. Your job is to find the right equation for you, not to have all the answers. Some of you may know exactly what you wanna do, and that's great. But I suspect many of you don't, and that's okay too. Work on finding the right equation. There are lots of variables and a few constants too. You can ask yourself questions like, what do I care about? What difference do I want to make in the world? Where do I want to live? And what makes me happy? Find the right equation for you. Finding the right equation is a form of editing. The choices are infinite, overwhelming. So ask the right questions for you, and you just might find the right answers. Confession 6. As you might suspect, I really had no idea what I wanted to do when I grew up. When I was a little girl, I thought I wanted to be a horsewoman, and then I thought I wanted to be an actress. But that was all a completely distant memory by the time I got to college. Then, in the winter of my sophomore year, I took a class with Professor Herb Eagle, a wonderful class. He taught a course called The Film Experience, where we studied the styles and themes of Soviet and East European cinema, a class he is still teaching. In fact, my professor, Herb Eagle, is here in the theater today. Thank you, Professor Eagle, for everything. In any case, at the end of the semester, Professor Eagle let me make a documentary movie instead of writing a paper. My short film was about the emerging fitness craze, and I tried to capture some of the techniques used by early Soviet filmmakers. I'm not sure I succeeded on that front, but I loved every aspect of the work. I shot all over campus and then edited for hours and hours in my dorm room. The truth is, in the beginning, I think I just wanted to get out of writing a paper. I didn't know then what I do now. That experience was the beginning of something important. After college, I remember feeling like if I dropped to the floor and disappeared, no one would notice. I didn't have papers to write, exams to study for. I was no longer surrounded by a gang of friends, and no one was expecting me anywhere. So why did I even exist? And then I met an oral historian who was producing a series of radio documentaries for this place called NPR. The series was about the labor history of New York, and she asked me to take a tape recorder all over the city to talk to early radicals who started the labor movement in this country. She couldn't pay me, but I had a waitressing job that I knew would cover my rent and food, and so I accepted her offer. The people I met were in their 70s and 80s. Many of them were real characters who told me rich stories about their lives and what shaped their politics and ultimately prompted them to form a union. And I produced a documentary I proudly titled Hard Times and Picket Lines, and I was hooked. Were it not for Professor Eagle's class, it might never have occurred to me to take a chance on a radio documentary, but I did. And those experiences taken together helped me understand what I cared about and what I might just be good at. I'm endlessly fascinated by people's stories, stories that explain history and politics and the human condition, and that's how I found my way to journalism. One thing I know for sure, if you find something you love, seize that something or that someone. Those feelings are real and ripe and the way to nourish your hearts and your souls. Confession 7. Even if you do find your muse, the self-doubt never quite disappears. It seems no one is without a certain amount of self-doubt. Not long ago, Terry Gross, she's the host of the public radio show Fresh Air, and one of the best interviewers ever to grace the airways, was talking to Damien Chazelle. He's the Academy Award-winning director of La La Land, another recurring theme today. And by any measure, Damien Chazelle is a stunning success. But when Terry asked him about his dreams, he told her this: I still, to this day, have nightmares of being a drummer in high school and being either at rehearsal or on stage and realizing, I don't know the chart. Chazelle went on, I don't know the song we're gonna play, or I start playing and it's like trying to drive a car in a dream. I have no control over my limbs and I'm just going in 8 different directions and it's terrible. And my high school conductor is looking at me and ready to tear my head off. Chazelle finishes, I have that dream probably once a month. Which leads me to a related confession, number 8. I spent a lot of time thinking about what I was going to say to you today, and I watched many brilliant commencement speeches to inspire me. The novelist Chimamanda Adichie at Wellesley, the late Steve Jobs at Stanford, the TV writer and producer Shonda Rhimes, and Mr. Rogers, both at Dartmouth. The list goes on. They were all brilliant. Their words moved me deeply. They made me laugh. They made me think harder about the meaning of life. And they all had something in common. They were all famous. So when I got the invitation to speak today, more than a year and a half ago, my first thought was, what an honor. I'd love that. My second thought was one of complete surprise. Wow. They asked me 18 months before the actual graduation. I guess I'm not some last-minute fill-in. They must really want me. Me? No one is without self-doubt. And so, while I'm not a world-class novelist or a wildly successful television writer, and certainly not Steve Jobs, I guess I've gained a bit of shareable wisdom over the years, and knowing what it takes to navigate a complicated world personally and professionally clearly counts for something. There are other things that count too. Confession 9. I believe that kindness should never go out of style, a value true to the core of my being. A few months ago, just days after the inauguration, I was in Chicago for business, walking to a meeting, and I saw a man leaning against a telephone pole. He looked homeless. He was wearing an oversized parka, a red snow hat, and in one hand he was holding a McDonald's coffee cup. In the other, a handwritten sign that said, "Make America kind again." But for that sign, I might have walked right past him. I loved that sign. I looked at him, and our eyes locked. I smiled, and he smiled back. I went to my meeting, and when I came out, he was still there, so I introduced myself to the man with the sign, and I told him how much I liked his message. He told me his name, Fred. Fred is 54 years old, missing most of his teeth, and he is diabetic. He moved to Chicago as a boy from Memphis, where he grew up. And he told me he'd had good jobs over the years, including more than a decade as a facilities worker at a big Chicago hospital. And he wasn't homeless, he said. My first impression was wrong, and most times first impressions can be. Fred had a place to live. He was thoughtful, gentle, open, and he clearly welcomed my inquiry. And he was hopeful. If you come back here next month, I won't be here, he said. I just need to get back on my feet. Fred is right. Kindness matters, perhaps now more than ever, and simple human interactions can fuel you. Be kind to people, and they will be kind back. Not all the time, but more often than not. I guarantee it. And be open to the unexpected. Fred's optimism was palpable. The hope that he expressed is one of life's most essential ingredients. Everyone deserves to have reason to hope. I left my conversation with Fred, and then I thought about the words of novelist Maya Angelou. I've heard that people will forget what you said, people will forget what you did, but they will never forget how you made them feel. Which brings me to Confession 10, or perhaps this is simply a life lesson. Much of what I've related so far reflects deeply held values, and your values will help guide you, but life also has larger purpose. Nearly 20 years ago, on January 21st, 1998, like so many Washingtonians, I began the day walking out to my front steps to pick up the Washington Post. That's how we got our news back then. And I learned, along with the rest of America, that President Clinton was suspected of having an affair with a former White House intern. She was 20-something. It so happened that my NPR colleagues and I were scheduled for an Oval Office interview with the president that day. Despite the unfolding crisis, the White House didn't cancel. And so, NPR host Robert Siegel and reporter Mara Liasson and I arrived for the interview scheduled for 11 a.m. We waited. Noon, 1 o'clock, 2. We were supposed to tape record the conversation, bring it back to NPR headquarters, and get it ready to lead the broadcast. 3 o'clock, 4. At 5 in the afternoon, Bill Clinton was finally ready for us, and we went live with the President of the United States on All Things Considered. I was the producer, and my job, among other things, was to make sure we hit our marks and got on and off the air on time. I was connected to my NPR colleagues in the studio with nothing but a battery-operated cell phone. Cell phones were the size of a small country back then. That phone connection died while we were on the air, but that was just a technicality. Everything the president said to us that day came through loud and clear. I don't think I understood the magnitude of what was happening at the moment, but I was a witness to history. When Robert Siegel asked Bill Clinton if there was any truth to the allegation of an affair between the president and Monica Lewinsky, Bill Clinton looked Robert Siegel in the eye and said, "It was not true." It took nearly 7 months, but the president ultimately admitted to the relationship. He had lied to us and to the American people live on the air that day. There were impeachment proceedings that followed, a black eye on the presidency and on Bill Clinton's legacy. I'm old enough to be a child of the Watergate era. I remember watching on our little black and white television in the summer of 1974 when President Nixon resigned. I was 15. He was forced from office for the attempted cover-up of a break-in at the Democratic National Committee in Washington. That story would not have come to light but for the reporting of the Washington Post and eventually the New York Times. It was a bad time for the country, but it was a remarkable time for journalism, one that inspired many of today's finest reporters to devote their lives to the profession. My experience in the Oval Office 26 years ago, 26 years later, was another stark reminder of the crucial role that journalists play in holding power to account, as are the events of the last 100 days. It is not my purpose to pass judgment on Richard Nixon, Bill Clinton, or Donald Trump, but this is a moment that reminds us of the vital importance of a free press. Whatever your politics are, there is no doubt that we are witnessing one of the most consequential periods in American history in more than a generation. The upending of long-standing political and diplomatic norms by a real estate mogul and reality TV star whose cable television viewing habits inspire his early morning tweet storms. A leader who has declared the press, whose role is enshrined in the First Amendment of the Constitution, an enemy of the people. And this is at a moment when journalism is so vulnerable. Business models are crumbling, fake news abounds, and the value of real news is being challenged at every turn. Seldom, though, has it been more important, whether you choose to be a journalist or not. For those who do, it is a profession vital to the survival of our democracy, not to mention a chance to travel far and wide, enter worlds that are not your own, to shed light where there is none, to tell the story of this presidency, or simply to tell the story of people like Fred. Many of you in all likelihood will find other callings, but to you I say the obligation to defend journalism is just as great. This is a moment that demands the very best of all of us. Facts matter, truth matters, knowledge matters, democracy matters. And all of you graduating today have devoted your time at Michigan to understanding that. So go forth, find your muse, be true to yourself, but remember that life carries with it higher obligations. You can make a difference. Here is to the class of 2017. The wind is at your back. You have your whole lives ahead of you. Congratulations. It's great out there. Thank you.
Now, this is the moment we have been waiting for, the presentation of the class of 2017. My colleague, Professor Scott Campbell, will announce the name of each student. They will come up to get their certificate. Get your cameras ready, but remember to keep the aisles clear.
Rebecca Sarah Rothbart. Danielle Jamie Litwack. Sarah Benson. Lindsay Danielle Hurwitz. Emily Alexandra Levy. Joanna Catherine McKelvey. Eli Michael Scheinholz. Gabrielle Marie Wesseldijk. Jenna Lynn Wilimowski. Adriana Nicole Aguilera. Kylie Fisher Ambrose. Colette Noel Anderson. Kate Rose Andreola. Phoebe Nicole Anstead. Nicole Bell Anton. Erin Teresa Ayalp. Richard Bailey. Hannah Faraj Basil. Megan Adele Begich. Mackenzie Marie Becker. Brian Joseph Beckwith. Shelby Morgan Berriman. Kayla Rachel Belgian. Rebecca Signey Bergman. Emma Martin Biggert. Amelia Bod. Shannon Elizabeth Bradley. Elisa LaDon Brandon. Stephanie Lauren Briffa. Karen Elizabeth Brownman. Stacy Popik Brubis. Katie Sue Burke. Sophie Burton. Claudia Cristina Campos Jugo. Lubika Chekvala Tak. Azore Asjay Chaw. Timmy Chang. Diana Meng Chen. Victoria Ann Chen. Laura Gratch Cohen. Kayla Elise Countryman. Brooke Rachel Cowan. David Tyler Crone. Gabrielle Lucia Kronick. Catherine Ruth Crowley. Morgan Brenna Cullen. Peyton Elizabeth Doherty. Kathleen Shaw Dolvin. Olivia Claire Donatelli. Elisa Rose Dohnbeck. Kristen Michelle Eisenhower. Julia Elizabeth Ellis. Alexandra Lauren Emmerman. Courtney Elaine Evans. Lauren Carol Farfell. Rachel Natalia Feldman. Nicholas Joseph Finn. Nicole Drew Fleschner. Christina Dorothea Flam. Molly Mae Force. Haley Marcel Fox. Rachel Amber Friedman. Natasha Kristen Geller. Hannah Marie Genord. Helen Marie Giannakopoulos. Tizeret Kaur Gill. Marley Lee Goldman. Ilana Jasmine Goldwasser. Sarah Catherine Gorsica. Rachel Lindsay Gordon. Nicole Grauer. Casey Lane Harness. Haley Beth Harris. Lauren Harris. Savannah Harvey. Jessica Ray Heifetz. Leslie Nicole Heyman. Azalea Valki Inu Hosu. My apologies. Emily K. Hockhauser. Kimberly Michelle Hoey. Catherine Alice Hofswell. Scout Holiday. Brooke Page Hornstein. Jade Kayla Hubbard. Ryan Turner Hudson. Lota Theodora Elizabeth Herkmans. William Alexander Intner. Andrew Christopher Kedar. Tabby Kalami. Elizabeth Jane Kapolka. Lindsay Sue Kerr. Courtney Sujung Kim. Andrea Lee Kimball. Brittany Kerwin. Carolyn Lee Cotis. Allison Renee Cole. Liza Emily Colander. Chantel Genevieve Konopka. McKenna Christine Kozeni. Jamie Nicole Kozlow. Bianca Kristen. Andrew Solomon Crowitz. Lauren Ann Kersnick. Emily Swift Cushman. Leanne Kurtzman. Sarah Leeson. Catherine Ann Lehman. Karen Esty Lashem. Sophie Alexandra Lev. Haley Reed Lewandowski. Francesca Bell Lewis. Megan Joyce Lieb. Vivian Lynn. Sarah Jordan Lindenberg. Arabia Aman Little. Ryan Samantha Loeb. Lindsay Claire Lober. Catherine Grace Loftus. Morgan Elizabeth Love. Lauren Josephine Lukens. Jack Lyons. Rebecca Rachel Mendel. Kendra Marie Mance. Sophia Forbes Marciniak. Brian James Matukin. Jordan Patricia Mellon. Olivia Mazeros. Audrey Adele Myers. Marie Elizabeth Monarch. Madeline Marie Moog. Nicholas Keith Moore. Caitlin Elizabeth Mulder. Maria Elizabeth Newton. Caitlin McNeely Norton. Alexandra Elizabeth Nolan. Isohe Charisse Osuhuboyan. Kimberly O'Shaughnessy. Sarah Rose Otto. Serena Patel. Christine Marie Peplow. Kellyanne Perez. Daniel Peters. Emily Ann Peterson. Dana Elise Petkove. Elizabeth Cecile Palaki. Megan Elizabeth Pomnitz. Dara Morgan Portnoy. Emily Kate Potash. Dalton Pataki. Daniel Joseph Purcell. Caroline McKean Rafferty. Elliot Kyle Rains. Meredith Ann Ray. Nathaniel John Riley. Jocelyn Ray Reinhardt. Kathleen Rebecca Robinson. Danielle Ilana Rosenbach. Tatum Page Rosenfeld. Abigail Marie Rosich. Danielle Lauren Rubenstein. Jonna Rose Ruthberg. Daniel Seamus Ronayne Ryan. Sydney Lauren Sakwa. Karina Sanchez. Francesca Nina Sands. Sylvia Long Sankaran. Catherine Elizabeth Schiller. Gretchen Noel Schultz. Leslie Grace Schumann. Kayla Nicole Schwartz. Ubilasha Ukshay Shah. Carly Rose Shapiro. Javon Anson Shell. Grace Elizabeth Shepard. Allison Goodspeed Shewart. Dylan Perry Silverstein. Mackenzie Catherine Smith. Marilena Olivia Soberall. Rebecca Michael Severinsky. Mikhail. Jack Roland Springgate. Alexandria Jane Steeney. Nicola Haley Stein. Ava Corinne Steer. Abigail Julia Stone. Hannah Grace Sue. Amber Marie Tulaski. Heidi Amy Tomeo. Hannah Tano. Taylor Olivia Thorne. Emma B. Tigerman. Maria Geraldine Tomsovic. Caitlin Jo Toporski. Caitlin Hope Torres. Jack Edward Turman III. Lee Hall Uffelman. Bailey Lynn Valenti. Paige Elizabeth Wakeland. Michelle Frances Wander. Katie Emma Wynn. Caroline Elizabeth Winograd. Emma Catherine Winowicki. Elizabeth Christine Wiley. Catherine Pierce Yardley. Matthew Robert Yasso. Lillian W. Zoe. And last but not least, we have Allison Elizabeth Zimmer.
Let's give another round of big applause to our students and graduates. Thank you for attending the 2017 commencement. Please remain seated until the faculty and graduate recess. please join us for refreshment in the theater lobby and upstairs on mezzanine. Thank you very much.